Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. The envelope was waiting on my desk when I got home from the gym. Cream-colored, thick paper stock, my name written across the front in Lindsay's careful handwriting. She'd left it propped against my laptop, impossible to miss. The lamp on my desk cast a soft glow across it, making the envelope look almost ceremonial. For a moment, I thought it might be something sweet. An apology maybe, or one of those love notes we used to leave each other years ago. Back when we were still in that place where small gestures meant everything. I set down my gym bag and picked up the envelope. It had weight to it, multiple pages inside. My heart did this stupid hopeful thing, thinking maybe she'd finally broken through whatever wall had been building between us these past few months. Maybe this was her way of reaching out, of acknowledging that we'd been drifting. I was wrong. Inside were 3 pages, single-spaced, numbered list. The title at the top read, "A Letter of Resentments. Things I Need You to Hear." Below it, 47 numbered items. 47 things my wife of 9 years apparently hated about me. The paper was nice quality, the kind you'd use for something important. She'd even laminated it. That detail struck me as particularly calculated. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment thing. This was planned, prepared, preserved. I sat down slowly, feeling like I needed to be sitting for whatever this was. I started reading through the list. Number 1, the way I chew. She'd been silent for 9 years, but it made her physically cringe. That one hit me immediately. 9 years. She'd watched me eat dinner across from her for 9 years, cringing, and never said a word. Number 8, my laugh is too loud in restaurants and embarrasses her. I thought about all the times I'd made her laugh, how her face would light up. Apparently, I'd been embarrassing her instead. Number 15 said I think I'm funny, but my jokes make her feel second-hand embarrassment. Number 23, the way I dress myself is like a middle schooler picked out my clothes. I looked down at what I was wearing. Jeans and a t-shirt from the gym. Apparently inadequate. The list went on and on. Number 31 said my career ambitions are average, and it made her wonder if she'd settled. That one stung in a different way. I'd always thought we were building a life together, not competing. Number 39, when I try to comfort her, it feels suffocating rather than supportive. I thought about every time I'd held her when she was upset, every time I tried to be there. Suffocating. That's what she'd felt. I kept reading, each item landing like a small punch. Some were petty, like how I organized the dishwasher or the way I pronounced certain words. Others cut deeper. My conversation skills were boring. My hobbies were juvenile. The way I showed affection felt performative. By the time I reached number 47, I felt completely hollowed out. I'm not sure I actually respect you anymore and haven't for a while. I sat there holding those pages, trying to process what I was reading. My hands were shaking slightly. I read through the list again, looking for anything constructive, any request for change, any suggestion for improvement. There was nothing like that. These weren't constructive criticisms. These weren't requests for behavior changes. These were personal attacks, carefully typed and printed and laminated, designed to wound. This was my laugh, my personality, my ambitions, my attempts at kindness. This was me, reduced to 47 reasons I was inadequate as a human being. Her book club had been studying some pop psychology book about radical honesty. I'd heard her on the phone with her book club friends multiple times over the past few weeks, praising each other for finally speaking their truth about their marriages. I'd catch fragments of conversation. It felt so liberating to finally say it. He needs to hear these things. We've been protecting their feelings for too long. I should have paid more attention. I should have seen where this was heading. At 10:15 that night, Lindsay came home from book club. I heard her car in the driveway, the door opening, her keys hitting the bowl by the front door like always. She came into the office and found me sitting there with the letter, and her expression was expectant, almost excited, like she'd been waiting all evening for this moment. "Did you read it?" she asked. Her voice had this bright quality to it, like she was asking if I'd enjoyed a gift she'd given me. "I read it," I said. "Good. We learned tonight that holding back resentments is toxic. It poisons the relationship from the inside. You needed to hear these things. All of them. It's the only way we can move forward with real honesty between us." I looked at her, really looked at her, and said nothing. The woman standing in front of me looked like my wife. Same dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Same gray sweater she'd worn to book club for weeks now. But her eyes had this gleam in them I didn't recognize. Pride, maybe. Or satisfaction. My mind wasn't working on a response to her letter. It was working on something else entirely. That night, she explained the philosophy. Cassandra, the book club leader, says that protecting someone's feelings is actually lying to them. They'd all written letters to their partners. It was a healing exercise. I should be grateful she trusted me enough to be this honest. And if I couldn't handle her truth, well, that was my fragility, not her cruelty. I recognized the language. None of it sounded like her. These were borrowed words, borrowed concepts, borrowed cruelty dressed up as courage. Friday, I asked if we could discuss some of the specific items. I wanted to understand. Maybe if we talked about them, I could see the real concerns underneath the cruelty. She refused immediately. I'm not here to manage your emotional reaction to my feelings, she said. More book club language. More Cassandra. The words didn't even sound like her anymore. That evening, I found myself looking at Lindsay's laptop. She'd left it open on the kitchen counter, and I saw the book club's private Facebook group on the screen. The page was just sitting there, unguarded. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. What I found explained everything. The group was called the Enlightened Circle, and it had 23 members. Posts from other members sharing their own resentment letters. Screenshots of pages, text partially blurred out. Comments underneath each post were effusive. So brave. This is what real honesty looks like. You're not dimming your light for anyone. A competitive tone ran throughout, like they were comparing who could be most brutally honest, who could wound most deeply and call it growth, who could push their partner furthest and still claim it was love. I scrolled through the posts. One woman had written 62 items. Another had delivered hers on their anniversary dinner. The comments praised her timing, making it memorable, associating honesty with your special day. It was sickening. I saw Cassandra's pinned post at the top of the group. Remember, his discomfort is not your responsibility. His growth is. You cannot manage his emotions while speaking your truth. If he reacts badly, that reveals his inability to handle reality, not your cruelty in delivering it. 41 likes. 17 comments agreeing. And there, posted 3 days earlier, was Lindsay's contribution. A photo of her letter, text redacted for privacy, with the caption, 47 truths. No more silence. Feeling empowered and authentic. 83 comments of support and admiration. You're amazing. This is what self-love looks like. He's lucky you're giving him this chance to improve. I felt sick reading them. One dissenting voice caught my eye. Someone named Jennifer had written, "This seems cruel, not honest. These letters are destroying marriages, and you're all celebrating it." She'd been kicked out within the hour. Cassandra had commented, "We don't allow toxic positivity here." Jennifer was holding us back from our authentic selves. This wasn't therapy. This was performance. And Lindsay had turned our marriage into content for an audience who didn't know us, didn't love us, and didn't care what happened as long as it was dramatic. The weekend was strange. Saturday morning, Lindsay made breakfast like nothing had happened. Eggs and toast, coffee in my favorite mug. She hummed while she cooked. When I came down, she smiled at me. "Have you had time to process everything?" she asked, like she'd given me a gift I needed time to appreciate. "Still thinking," I said. "That's good. Take your time. This is a lot of growth for both of us." She kept asking if I was ready to discuss yet. Her tone had this therapist-like quality, performatively patient. Like she was the counselor, and I was the client who needed gentle guidance toward enlightenment. Sunday afternoon, she posted updates to the group about setting boundaries with my defensiveness. I saw the notifications pop up on her laptop. Each time her phone buzzed with comments, she smiled. Sunday evening, she called me into the living room. She'd set up her tablet to show me a self-help video. 17 minutes about receiving difficult feedback with grace. The instructor in the video kept saying things like, "Feedback is a gift, and defensiveness blocks growth." Lindsay watched me while I watched the video, gauging my reaction. I spent the weekend reviewing the past 4 months. September, when she joined the book club. She'd come home excited, energized. October, when she started using therapy language in every argument. November, when she began posting cryptic growth quotes about outgrowing people. December, when the letter assignment was announced in the group. January, when she delivered her verdict. Tuesday evening, I overheard her phone call with a book club friend. He's been quiet since the letter. I think he's finally understanding what he needs to work on. Then, Cassandra said if he gets defensive, That proves the points are valid. And finally, mine had 47. How many did you write? Only 31. Girl, dig deeper. That's when I understood completely. This wasn't about improving our marriage. This was about destruction disguised as growth. The book club rewarded emotional cruelty as authenticity. Lindsay wasn't trying to fix us. She was performing for an audience who would praise her for it. Wednesday night, 6 days after receiving the letter, I sat at my desk with blank paper. I remembered our early years. Lindsay defending me to her family, championing me to her friends, being my biggest supporter. That woman felt like a stranger now. Or maybe she'd chosen this performance over our reality. I wrote one sentence on the same cream-colored stationery she'd used. I placed it in an envelope, left it on the kitchen counter, and went to work early Thursday morning without saying a word. The sentence read, "I resentfully stayed this long." The text started at 9:15. What does that mean? Then, at 9:47, that's not a response to what I shared. You're being dismissive. A phone call at 10:23 that I didn't answer. At 11:30, Cassandra says this is classic deflection. You're avoiding accountability. The voicemail at 12:15 said, "We need to talk when you get home." This is exactly the kind of thing I was writing about. I wasn't at work. I'd taken a personal day. I went to our storage unit and retrieved boxes. I called a moving company and said I needed a truck for Saturday morning. I called a friend about his spare room. I made a checklist, practical and unemotional. I booked the movers for Saturday at 8 a.m. What I felt wasn't anger. It was clarity. Thursday evening at 6:30, Lindsay was waiting when I got home. Your response was hurtful and dismissive, she said. I put myself out there vulnerably, and you threw it back in my face with that passive-aggressive sentence. I sat down across from her in the living room. You spent 47 points telling me what you hate about who I am, I said calmly. Not what I do wrong. Not behavior to change. Who I am. My laugh. My ambitions. My attempt to comfort you. You said you don't respect me anymore. That's my truth. No. Truth would be, when you do this, I feel that. That's honest communication. What you wrote wasn't truth. It was a performance. I've seen the Facebook group. The color drained from her face. She hadn't expected that. That's private. You invaded my privacy. You left your laptop open. But that's not the point. The point is you turned our marriage into content for an audience. You don't understand. This was about growth. It was about cruelty disguised as courage, I said. You wanted to wound me, get praised for it, and have me thank you for the trauma. That's not growth. That's abuse with a self-help vocabulary. I was being honest about my feelings. Feelings don't justify cruelty. You could have said I'm unhappy or I need things to change. Instead, you cataloged 47 reasons I'm inadequate as a human being. And the worst part? I don't think these are even all your feelings. I think Cassandra and the group convinced you that being vicious was the same as being authentic. She tried every justification. The book says this. The group believes that. I cut through each one. I don't care what the book says. I care what we say. Or used to say, before you outsourced our marriage to a book club. You're being defensive. I'm being done. There's a difference. She went quiet. What does that mean? It means I've spent 6 days realizing something. For 4 months, I watched you change. I told myself it was a phase. I convinced myself the woman I married was still in there. But your letter made it clear. You don't want a partner. You want an audience member to your performance of growth. And I resentfully stayed while you auditioned. Friday morning, she tried to reframe everything as my overreaction. One sentence wasn't the same as 47 honest observations. I was weaponizing her vulnerability. I looked at her and said, exactly. Now you understand how your letter felt. She realized I was serious. Are you leaving? Are you threatening divorce? I'm not threatening anything. I'm explaining something. That afternoon, she posted in the book club group. I saw the notification on her laptop, still sitting open. When you finally share your truth, and he makes it about him. The comments flooded in. Typical male fragility. Stand firm in your boundaries. Cassandra responded. His discomfort is his path to growth. Saturday morning at 8 a.m., the moving truck pulled up outside. A white truck with blue lettering. 2 movers climbed out, professional and efficient. They began loading my belongings according to the list I'd given them. Desk, office chair, 3 boxes of books, 2 suitcases of clothes, my laptop, the framed photos from my side of the family. Lindsay discovered them from the upstairs window. I heard her gasp, then footsteps running. She raced downstairs in her pajamas, hair uncombed, face without makeup. She looked genuinely shocked. What is happening? Her voice came out high and tight. I directed the movers calmly. Desk goes to storage unit on Valmont. Those boxes to my friend's place on Baseline. I handed them the addresses written clearly on paper. You're leaving? Over this. Lindsay's eyes were wide, darting between me and the movers and the truck. Over what you showed me about how you see me. So you're just giving up on us? She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware she was outside in pajamas. Mrs. Chun from next door was watering her garden, clearly watching. You gave up 4 months ago. I just caught up. She started crying. Whether the tears were genuine or performed, I couldn't tell anymore. The old me would have known immediately. The old US didn't have this kind of confusion. I didn't mean I wanted you to leave, she said through tears. We can work through this. Don't you want to fight for us? I've been fighting. You've been performing. Our neighbors were definitely watching now. Mr. Patterson across the street had paused his Saturday morning run. The couple from 2 doors down had stopped their walk. Lindsay became aware of the visibility, her face flushing. Can we please talk about this inside? She glanced around at the growing audience. Now you care about appearances. She flinched at that. But I agreed to pause the movers and go inside for a conversation. They waited by the truck, checking their phones, probably relieved to have a break. In the living room, Lindsay was crying harder. I never wanted this. The letter was supposed to help us. Cassandra said it would create breakthrough. Cassandra doesn't know us, I said. She doesn't love you. She just loves being the guru. She shifted tactics. What if I apologize? For what specifically? She struggled. The best she could manage was, I'm sorry you were hurt. She couldn't say she was wrong, only that my reaction was bigger than expected. I just need time to process what you're feeling. I gave you 6 days. How much time did you give me before delivering 47 resentments? She couldn't understand why one sentence equaled 47 items. That's not the same proportion. Exactly my point. You think relationship math works that way. I get 47 criticisms. I owe you compliance and gratitude. I give you one truth, and suddenly I'm the villain. I set the boundary clearly. I'm moving out today. We can decide later if this is temporary or permanent. You're making a huge decision in anger. I'm making a clear decision after 4 months of watching you become someone else. That's not impulsive. That's overdue. Saturday evening, Lindsay's mother called. I expected this. She's devastated. Can't you two work this out? Did she tell you about the letter? She said she was trying to communicate better and you overreacted. She wrote 47 reasons I'm inadequate. I wrote 1 sentence back. What part of that is overreacting? Silence on the line. Then, well, marriage is hard. Marriage is hard. Cruelty is a choice. Sunday, our mutual friend Amy texted asking what happened. Did she show you the letter she wrote me? I asked. What letter? Ask her to show you. Then we'll talk. Later that day, Amy texted back. Oh my God, Grant, I had no idea. Monday, Lindsay posted a vague status. Sometimes the people who claim to love you can't handle you at your most authentic. 47 likes from book club members. 3 real friends commented with questions. 1 friend from college messaged me directly asking what was going on. The pattern became clear. Each ally Lindsay tried to recruit got told a partial story. When given full context, they went silent or became sympathetic to me. Only the book club remained an echo chamber of support. Tuesday, 5 days after I moved out, Lindsay texted. What if I leave the book club? I replied, that's a start. But it's not about the book club. It's about whether you actually believe what you wrote. I don't understand what you want from me. I want to know if you meant the 47 things. Because if you genuinely believe I'm that fundamentally flawed, we shouldn't be married. If you don't believe them and wrote them anyway, we definitely shouldn't be married. Either way, I'm not the problem. She couldn't answer directly. It's more complicated than that. Some things were real feelings, some were. She trailed off. Were what? Performance pieces? Things Cassandra suggested you felt? Silence. Wednesday, Lindsay announced she'd left the book club group chat. She showed me the message she'd sent. I need to focus on my marriage. Cassandra's response was immediate. Putting a man before your growth is betraying yourself. Other members chimed in. We'll be here when you're ready to choose yourself again. Thursday, she asked to meet at Ozo Coffee on Canyon Boulevard. Neutral ground. She arrived with a notebook, a prepared speech. I stopped her before she started. Please just talk to me. Not at me. Like you used to. She took a breath. I got caught up in it. The book club made me feel seen, heard, important. Cassandra made me feel like I was waking up. She paused. But writing that letter, I felt powerful. And getting all those comments supporting me, I felt validated. I didn't realize until the truck showed up that I was sacrificing something real for something performed. I need to know, I said. Do you actually resent those 47 things? Long silence. Some of them, yes. But not the way I wrote them. Not with that cruelty. Some of them. I don't even know if they're my resentments or things I convinced myself I should feel. She was crying, and this time it felt genuine. I miss us. The real us. Before I tried to turn us into content. What happens now, she asked. I don't know yet. That depends on whether we can get back to being us instead of you performing a version of us for validation. I deleted Facebook yesterday. Left all the book club group chats. That's good. But what about the 47 resentments? Do they still exist in your head, even without the group? She thought about it. Some of the things I wrote were real. Like, I do wish you dress a bit more thoughtfully sometimes. And I do think your jokes can be cheesy. I almost smiled. Cheesy jokes are my brand. I know. And truthfully, I usually love that. But Cassandra kept saying, what are you tolerating? And suddenly things I loved about you became things I was settling for. Here's what I can't get past, I said. You didn't come to me. You didn't say, hey, I'm feeling distant or can we work on some things? You weaponized 4 months of manufactured resentment and delivered it like a verdict. I know. And I'm sorry. Actually sorry. Not sorry you felt hurt, but sorry I did that. I need you to understand something. When I wrote, I resentfully stayed this long. I meant it. For 4 months, I watched you choose that book club's version of honesty over our actual relationship. I watched you practice cruelty and call it courage. And I stayed, hoping you'd snap out of it. That hope was the resentful part. So you're not coming home? Not yet. Maybe not for a while. We need to figure out if we can build something real again, or if we've become too performed to be genuine. 6 weeks passed. We met weekly at Ozo Coffee, always neutral ground. The same table by the window, if it was available. We'd order our drinks. She'd get a latte, I'd get black coffee, and we'd talk. Really talk. No scripts. No performances. No invisible audience judging our authenticity. We talked about what happened. How she'd gotten pulled into the book club's toxic philosophy. How I'd watched it happen and stayed silent too long. We talked about our marriage before all this. The good parts we'd forgotten. The ways we used to support each other before support became suffocation in her mind. We each saw therapists individually. Mine helped me understand my own boundaries. Why I'd let things deteriorate so far before acting. Lindsay's helped her understand her need for external validation. Why Cassandra's approval had meant more than our relationship for those months. We started couples therapy together with a real therapist named Dr. Patricia Mills. Not book club pop psychology. Not radical honesty exercises. Just honest work on our actual problems. Week by week, session by session, we started rebuilding something that felt real. Things changed gradually. Lindsay reached out to the friend who'd questioned the book club approach, the woman named Jennifer who'd been kicked out. She apologized for not defending her, for getting so caught up in the group's ideology. They met for lunch, and Jennifer told her about watching the group from the outside, seeing how toxic it had become. How relieved she'd been to get kicked out, actually. Several other book club members left after Lindsay did. A domino effect. When one person breaks away from that kind of group dynamic, others find the courage to follow. Cassandra's group was shrinking as people realized the toxicity. The posts became increasingly desperate, more extreme, trying to keep the remaining members engaged. One former member texted Lindsay, "Thank you for being the first to leave. Gave me courage to do the same. My husband and I are actually talking now." During one therapy session, Lindsay brought the printed letter. "I want to destroy this. With you there." We fed it through the office shredder together. The therapist asked how it felt. Lindsay said, "Like I'm destroying evidence of who I became instead of who I am." I said, "Like we're destroying the performance to find the people." 3 months after the moving truck, I moved back in. 2 weeks ago now. We're sitting on our front porch, and Lindsay tells me someone from the old book club messaged her yesterday. "Yeah." I asking if I'd rejoin. Said Cassandra's reading a new book about releasing toxic partners. What did you say? I said I already released my toxic partner. She was the one making me think cruelty was clarity. That's when I know we've actually made it through. Not because the wound healed, but because she understands what caused it. You know what I realized? Lindsay says, the book club kept saying speak your truth, like truth was whatever you felt in the moment. But real truth takes time. It requires context. It needs kindness to be useful. 47 things, all delivered at once. Like emotional carpet bombing. I regret all of it. Not all of it needed regretting. Some of those criticisms, delivered differently, could have helped us grow. But I chose shock value over partnership. You chose performance over us. She nods, quiet for a moment. Here's what I learned through all of this. Honesty without kindness is cruelty. It doesn't matter how true something is if you deliver it with the intention to wound. Boundaries without empathy are walls. You can protect yourself without destroying someone else. And staying silent about your hurt doesn't make you noble. It makes you complicit in your own suffering. It teaches people that your boundaries don't matter. For months, I told myself I was being patient, being understanding, giving her space to work through whatever she was going through. But patience without boundaries is just enabling. I should have said something when I first noticed her changing. When the book club language started creeping into our conversations. When she started treating me like a project instead of a partner. Instead, I resentfully stayed, hoping she'd come back on her own. Hoping the woman I married would resurface without me having to fight for her. My one sentence wasn't revenge. It wasn't meant to hurt her the way she'd hurt me. It was the most honest thing I could say in that moment. I'm done resenting. I'm done enabling. I'm done watching us perform for an audience of people who don't know us, don't love us, and don't care what happens to us. The book club taught her that speaking your truth meant weaponizing your feelings. That honesty meant saying every critical thought without filter or kindness. That growth required destruction. What they didn't teach was that real truth, the kind that heals instead of wounds, requires 3 things. Honesty about the problem, clarity about what you need, and kindness in delivery. All 3, not just the first one. She gave me 47 reasons I was inadequate, 47 ways I'd disappointed her, 47 failures I'd committed by being myself. I gave her one reason our dynamic couldn't continue, one clear boundary, one moment of absolute clarity about what I would and wouldn't accept. Turns out, one clear boundary communicated with love is worth more than 47 criticisms wrapped in the language of growth and self-actualization. We're rebuilding now, not performing growth for an audience, not documenting our journey for social media validation, just actually doing the quiet, unglamorous work of remembering why we chose each other, why we stood up in front of our families and friends and promised to build a life together. Some days are hard. Some conversations resurface old hurts. Sometimes I remember reading that letter and feel the wound fresh again. Sometimes she remembers the moving truck and feels the panic of almost losing everything. But we're talking to each other again, not at each other for invisible spectators, not performing authenticity for a book club, just talking, like we used to, like we should have been all along. The letter is gone. The book club is behind her. The moving truck is a memory. What remains is a choice. Perform our relationship or live it. We're choosing to live it. Finally, dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.